across industries, across different areas, and there really is no limiting factor to it. How you use big data is really up to your creativity and how smartly can you use it. Internet of Things, as I said, 50 billion devices will be connected to the internet by 2020. Already about 5 billion devices are already connected. So what's really this Internet of Things? It's really your machines are getting smarter. Your machines are talking to each other. Check it out on YouTube. There's something called Amazon Dash. Amazon in the US launched a product called Dash, whereby your washing machine can order soap or washing powder as soon as it gets over on its own. So once you put it that, they give you a button called Dash button. So all you have to do is to press the button on your washing machine. Once you already put your payment details on the chip, and it goes to online to Amazon orders for washing soap. So that's just an example, and there are millions of such applications that your machine intelligence or machine learning and IoT has. GE, for example, General Electric has set up a $5 billion IoT center in California. Their objective is to reinvent themselves as a software company rather than as a. GE makes industrial machinery. They make oil and gas equipment. They make aircraft engines. What they want to do is to make sure that all these devices, all this machinery is turned smarter, sends data on the cloud, and they can service their customers better. A real example really is, for example, for GE aircraft engines. Today what happens, how does GE service its aircraft engines? For example, they go down to every airline, they go every once in a month or once in a quarter, they go and take out the engine and see how is it working. So that's your regular maintenance. When you put a chip, an IoT device on your aircraft engine, the device keeps sending data to the GE cloud. And using that data, GE knows in advance what's wrong with a particular aircraft engine. And likewise, there are millions of such applications. Really, it's about you don't need a human intervention here, because your machines are already providing you all the data on the cloud. But you still can't take decisions. The machine still can't take a decision. They can only tell you what decisions you should take or what steps you can take. And that's where believe it or not, IoT is the most exciting thing that's happening around us. And things are happening much faster than what you think about. And the cost of these devices is going down. And so suddenly you have, you have what, 400 zettabytes of data. So, I don't even know how many zettabytes, how many terabytes make a zettabyte, but you can just see how much of data that is going around, and which is the way in which you can handle all this data. You can't do it on Excel spreadsheet for sure. You've got to use some smart tools, but too much of data is also a problem. So you've got to have the smart thinking, you've got to have the infrastructure to handle this amount of data. Quickly, last thing is about cognitive analytics. Is nothing but how you can use analytics to make your machines think and act like humans. Now, when we say it's really about what has always been called as AI or artificial intelligence or neural computing, all this has become real now. What was really science fiction isn't so much of science fiction as reality anymore. So what really is the next step is using data and using analytics. How can you make your machines smarter, and how can you make your machines start working and start thinking and making decisions? What's the natural fallout of all this is that humans are increasingly getting irrelevant. And you have seen even in India, I don't know, you would have read in the papers about a couple of weeks ago, Raymond, which is one of the oldest textile manufacturers in the country had decided to, cut their workforce by 10,000 people. And their objective is to cut their workforce by 30,000 people over the next 5 years. Who is replacing them? It's all machines. So the biggest threat to all of us is not, is nobody but the machines. So the smarter ones amongst us who know how to make these machines work, or how to talk to these machines, or how to use analytics and use IoT and other tools, have a better chance of survival. But if your job is something that can be replaced by a machine, and a machine can do it better, because the machine doesn't have emotions, machines don't have unions, machines don't slack off, they don't need holidays, they don't need breaks, apart from maintenance breaks. But so the real threat is really about how can you be in this area where you make the machines work for you, and you are in the job market. A term which you would often hear about in the financial service industry is about personalization, which really means that today, for example, when you get an email, you get so many of these text messages and emails from your banks and various other institutions. They send you a dumb email saying, here is a loan available at 5% or 10% APR, and here is a home loan, here is a car loan, without bothering to find out, do you need a car loan? Do you need a home loan? Nobody cares. People just send you emails, people just keep sending you, WhatsApp messages and all that. You might just delete them. It's a mild nuisance for us, but it doesn't mean anything. But for the bank, if you look at it, they're sending out millions of such emails without putting any thought to it. Because these are not personalized. These are not personalized, meaning they don't know whether you as an individual needs a home loan or not. They're just sending you an email thinking that if you need a home loan, you will come to them. That is unfortunately a very traditional way of doing things. The world has moved on to that. What's really is about, the game is about personalization. And how do you personalize? How do you engage with personalized discussions with your customers? Is really about using analytics. Yep, that's about all. I think I now hand over the floor to Sonal. Thank you very much, and of course we'll be open to questions once you go. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wise words. Now, I would like to call upon Ms. Goyal to further enlighten us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me over, and I think it's the last session today, so I would like to keep it interactive. If you don't ask me questions, probably I'll shoot some questions over to you, so be prepared. A lot of things that I'm planning to talk about are already covered very well by Sriram. So I think my idea behind this session is to give you a good understanding of what big data is and some use cases on how big data is used in the financial services. Big data is a very common buzzword, and analytics again is a very common buzzword. So I would like that once you walk out of the session, you at least have a very concrete understanding of really what is big data, what are the implications, and some sample use cases where it is applied in an industry, in insurance, in banking, in private equity, so that you have some cases to refer back to. So as I got the introduction already, I have been working in the big data and analytics space for a long while now, and last few years I've been working especially in the AI field around big data, and AI and big data as a combination is something that you would hear again and again, because with more and more data you need to have a way to derive patterns out of it which AI provides to you. And this is the tool that I've been working on. You can check out the website later if you're interested. So Dilbert here talks about one aspect of big data, which is the volume of big data. So this is just, it talks about it's everywhere and it's this much in size. But I would like to, just ask you guys here, you've been hearing from Sriram and you've been doing your courses, what really comprises of big data? Anybody from the audience, please? Okay. Okay. So it is large volumes of data. It is user-generated data. It is machine-generated data. What else?
Random data.
Sorry?
It is coming from random sources, not from a biased source. Right?
Coming from multiple sources. Is that what?
Random sources.
Random sources.
If it comes from a particular source, then it might not be fitting into statistical curves.
So did you mean the structure? Sorry, can you give me an example, please?
Like if the data is coming from a population which is unbiased,
Okay.
then probably the chances of the data giving you a firm result will be better.
Okay.
If my understanding is okay, I
Okay.
don't know.
So basically what you're saying is that the information that we are collecting, the sample size is a very big size,
Yes.
through which we can probably glean patterns.
Yes.
Okay, great. Anybody else? Any thoughts about like unstructured data? So what really is unstructured data? That's a term you keep hearing. Anybody? Okay. So I think I'll just talk about structured and unstructured data. It took me a while to understand that, and when I started off in big data, like the first few things I would blurt out is like big data is unstructured data. But really, it took me a while to understand really what is unstructured data. Typically, if you work with data, any kind of information, it will have some defined fields. So let's say I am a student. I have my first name, my last name, my address. Then I have a college, and multiple students would be part of a college. There would be a professor who would have some attributes. So there is a clear structure to what is the information which defines a professor, what is the information which defines a student, what is the information which defines a college. But when you talk about unstructured data, so let's say a user review on Amazon. Now I can just write, I like the camera, the lens is okay, the focus is not that great, but I seem to be doing fine with it. Now I have actually stated 2 to 3 attributes about the camera, but there's really no structure to it. So that is the difference between a structured data source and an unstructured data source. So all your Twitter data, all your Facebook data, all the images data, all the video data, all the audio data, that is unstructured data. And structured data is to which you actually can tag attributes. And a lot of the analysis that we do around big data and a lot of challenges that we face around big data revolve around first deriving structure out of the unstructured data and then probably analyzing it. So in a typical NLP scenario, which Sriram was talking about, natural language processing, it's a very big field. And what you're doing there is you're first parsing through the sentences which are written by a user on his Twitter or on a Facebook account or maybe on LinkedIn or through some chat logs interaction with a bank, then gleaning out whether the person is happy with the service, whether they've received the payment that they were supposed to receive, and based on that, take some action. So this is, the unstructured part of the data that is there. You talked about machine-generated data. So one is, as Sriram said, is IoT data. IoT data is like, sensor data, which the machines are themselves throwing out at a specific, every milliseconds of their existence. Then there are server logs where you have, so let's say, I log into Citibank or to HDFC Bank and do my net banking. So there is a log about when I entered, through what IP address I logged into the server, how much time did I spend doing a particular transaction. In the case of companies like e-commerce and retail companies, did I spend a particular time watching a particular product? So those are all the logs that the server is generating, and that can be analyzed.
Ma'am, do you mean, are you talking of metadata or the data? Because when you
Data
are
as well as
talking-
metadata. All of them comprise big data.
But when you talk of structured data, you mean metadata, right?
No, when I talk about structured data can also be big data. So let's say I have, like I'm Facebook,
Not big data, metadata.
metadata.
Yeah.
So metadata is data about the data, right? So metadata attributes will be standard, but eventually the information that you derive out of, your unstructured text logs, let's say, will become big data. Does that answer your question? So then, so why do you think that, big data is becoming such a big deal? Like you hear the term all around, it's there on The Economist, it gets covered in the newspaper every few days. Why do you think, I'm sure some of you are also doing some courses around big data or just data analytics. Like what are your views on, why do you think that big data is a big deal? Somebody from the back?
Basically, you can say that it is a big source which is not yet utilized.
Okay.
So we have the input, but we have not utilized it yet.
Okay. So what you're saying is that data is just to going by the industry jargon, it's the new oil that you want to mine. There is untapped information, but you've not yet been able to look at that. Okay. But why do you think it's just happening now? I mean, this data has existed all the while, right? A lot of the data has already existed for a long time. Okay. Great. Okay. Okay. Okay.
You can do that sort of processing now.
Okay.
So I think that processing power, parallel computing is
So increase in processing power, the rise of new technology to process this information is the reason why it's becoming a big deal.
yeah, and
Yeah.
also to provide a customer better experience. So let's talk of the banking industry.
Okay.
You have got a complete data, you have got the processing power, so you want to enhance the customer experience.
Okay.
So you design strategies around
Okay.
them.
That's a great answer.
To understand the consumer behavior, as in to give him the product that he's looking for.
Okay. So basically, I think key points here are that because we now have the capability, so traditionally we had a good amount of data already, which was working through mainframes. But then we now also have different modes in which a customer is interacting with the financial institution. So let's say in typical retail banking, I was not doing online banking earlier. I was not going to an ATM earlier. All I was doing is going to a normal bank, a branch, and withdrawing or depositing cash. So my interaction was very limited. But now my interaction points have increased. So data around my interaction has increased. At the same time, the processing power and the ability of software to gather this data and to analyze this data has increased. So that's the reason why it's becoming a big deal, because you can, as you rightly said, get more, better insights and serve your customer better to drive your bottom line. So just if collecting, big data, just gathering all this information, though technically the technologies have evolved, but still there is quite a big challenge in, just getting all these logs together, streaming them to a server, managing the infrastructure. But by itself, do you think like just collecting all this information would be it, or there's more to the mix? Okay. So, what do you think is needed to derive actionable insights? What kind of skills, what kind of mindset is needed? Okay, cognitive abilities. Anybody else would like to add on? So we've been hearing this term, data scientist and data engineer. And a data scientist typically is